It was March 2021 in Temecula. My roommates were out of town for a long weekend, one visiting her boyfriend, the other at a wedding. I remember standing in the kitchen after they left, listening to the garage door close, and feeling that small relief that comes with having the house to yourself. I was in grad school, living on a schedule that didn't match anyone else's. Late nights, reading, writing, pretending I wasn't behind. That Friday, I made actual dinner, poured a glass of wine, and let the house settle around me. It was one of those newer suburban places, beige, clean, ordinary. Not creepy, just quiet. Around midnight, I went upstairs and started the shower. That's my mental reset. Once I shower, the day is done. I brushed my teeth while the water heated. The bathroom looked totally normal. Bright lights, white tile, the fan buzzing away. I stepped in, pulled the curtain closed, and let the water drown everything out. A minute or two in, I heard the bathroom door handle move, that soft metallic click of it turning down. I stopped rinsing my hair and stood there with the water hitting my shoulders. Air pressure, I told myself. The HV kicks on, doors shift. The latch probably didn't catch. I even said it out loud, air pressure, like naming it would make it smaller. Nothing else happened. I finished the shower, already forgetting about it. I wrapped my hair in a towel, reached for my robe, then the handle turned again. This time it was slower and held for a second. My throat tightened, and I hated that feeling. I didn't want to be scared in my own bathroom. "Hello?" I called out, trying to sound annoyed. "I'm in here." Silence. I stepped out of the shower and grabbed my phone before anything else. I opened the door quickly. The hallway was empty. All the bedroom doors were closed like always. The house didn't look disturbed. It just looked still. Too still. I checked every room upstairs. Nothing. Going downstairs felt like entering a different building. The first floor was darker, wider, quieter. Backslider, locked. Garage door, locked. My roommates' cars were gone, so the space felt hollow. Then I walked to the front door. The deadbolt wasn't engaged. The door was closed, but unlocked. I stared at it, waiting for my memory to correct itself. But I remembered locking it. I remembered tugging the handle. I locked it again, hard, and put the chain on, even though we never used it. Then I stood there listening. Nothing. I didn't call the police that night because I didn't have anything concrete. No broken window, no missing laptop, just a handle and an unlocked door. The next morning, I tried to convince myself I'd made a mistake, but the unease didn't go away. Over the next few days, I started doing small tells. A hair tie looped around the inside bathroom handle before I showered. A towel folded a certain way over the railing. My bedroom door pushed to a specific angle. I told myself it was just for peace of mind. 3 nights later, I got out of the shower and found the hair tie on the floor outside the bathroom. It wasn't a huge scene. Nothing was broken, but it felt intentional. That was the first time I felt truly alone. Not roommates are gone alone. Alone, like if something went wrong, there wouldn't be anyone in the next room to hear it. I called the non-emergency police line the next morning. The officer came and walked the perimeter, checked the doors and windows, asked if anything was missing. No signs of forced entry, he said. Could have been left unlocked. You can't argue with could have. There's nothing to fight. He told me to call again if it happened. Then he left. For about a week, nothing. I started feeling embarrassed. I turned music back on in the shower, forced myself to act normal. Then one afternoon, I was outside pulling in the trash cans when my neighbor, an older guy who always watered his plants at the same time, made small talk. "They finally caught that guy checking doorknobs around here," he said. I stopped mid-step. "What guy?" "Some random dude, walking late at night, just trying handles. Been happening for a couple months." "A couple months." I smiled like it was interesting neighborhood gossip, rolled the trash cans back in, and locked the door behind me. That night, I showered without music. I listened to every sound, and I realized that someone had been close enough to test the boundary, close enough to touch the door and leave no proof. After that, the fear didn't crash in. It blended into my day-to-day. I checked locks twice. I stopped taking long showers. I stopped closing my eyes under the water. I kept my phone within arm's reach, even in the bathroom. When my roommates came back, I didn't tell them everything. I gave them the simpler version. I think someone tried the door once, because saying, "The bathroom handle moved while I was in the shower," felt too exposed. But it changed something in me. I used to think privacy was automatic if the door was closed. Now I know it's thinner than it looks. All it took was one quiet twist of a handle to remind me that a locked door isn't a guarantee. Sometimes it's just a suggestion. When my parents left that Friday night, it didn't feel like a big deal. They'd done weekend trips before. My mom reminded me to take the trash out. My dad told me to use my head if anything weird happened, which at the time sounded like a joke. They backed down the long gravel driveway, and then the taillights disappeared at the bend near the mailbox. After that, it was just quiet. We lived outside Howell, Michigan, woods on both sides, one neighbor barely visible through the trees. The driveway was long enough that if someone pulled up, you heard them before you saw them. Normally that felt secure. That night, it just felt vulnerable. I made pizza, played video games, TV a little louder than usual. I left extra lights on downstairs. It's not that I thought anything would happen, but the house felt too big without my parents' background noise. Around 10, I did a quick lock check. Front door, backslider, garage, entry. My dad was strict about the garage because of the tools and ladders. Everything was locked. By 11:30, the woods outside were just black. Then at 11:42 p.m., the doorbell rang. I looked at my phone first, like it would explain it. Maybe my parents forgot something and turned around. That didn't make sense. They were already hours away. Then came a second ring. I muted the TV and just listened. I could hear the faint buzz of the porch light outside. I moved toward the front window but stayed back from the glass. Our porch light threw this yellow circle that didn't reach very far. A man stood just outside it, hood up, hands in his pockets. He wasn't hiding. He just wasn't fully visible. He leaned forward and rang again. I didn't unlock anything. I didn't even step close to the door. I just called out, trying to sound normal and hiding my nervousness. "Yeah?" He spoke like we were neighbors. "Hey man, your dad said I could grab the ladder from the garage." I stayed quiet for a second. Then he added casually, "Mike said it was fine." My dad's first name is Mike. The way he said it sounded familiar. I said, "He's not here." "Yeah, I know," he replied. "He told me you'd be here." He knew my dad's name. He knew my parents were gone. He knew about the ladder. "I'm not opening the door," I said. "Come back tomorrow." He paused. Then, calm as ever, "All right, no problem," and then stepped off the porch. I waited to hear his footsteps fade down the driveway. Instead, I heard them move sideways along the front of the house. That's when my brain caught up. Our front door was solid. The windows next to it were narrow and high, but the side of the house had ground-level windows, and the back door had a lot of glass. I turned off the TV completely and moved toward the kitchen, keeping the lights off. The glow from the hallway was just enough to see. Through the side window, I caught movement between the trees and the wall of the house. He was walking slowly. Then I heard it, the back door handle rattling. My heart almost stopped. I pulled out my phone and called my dad. Straight to voicemail. I called my mom. Same thing. Of course. They were driving. I didn't want to overreact. Part of me still wanted this to be some weird misunderstanding. Maybe my dad had actually told someone about the ladder and forgot to mention it. Then I heard the side garage door handle jiggle. That door led into the mudroom. It had a keypad outside. My dad used it when his hands were full. I stood in the dark hallway staring at that door like it was the last real barrier in the house. From there, I dialed 911. I told the dispatcher someone was outside trying the doors. I whispered my address like I didn't want the sound to travel. She told me to stay put and not confront anyone. By the time I saw headlights bounce down the driveway, the man was gone. 2 deputies showed up. They walked the perimeter with flashlights, Checked the back door, the garage, the tree line. Any reason someone would come looking for tools? One asked. No, I said. My dad didn't send anyone. They didn't find footprints, didn't find a car. The woods behind our house swallowed everything. Probably someone trying doors, one deputy said. Happens out here. They told me to call again if he came back. When they left, the house felt different. It didn't feel like mine. It felt like something I was temporarily responsible for. I barely slept. I left the TV on low. It didn't make me feel safe, but the silence felt worse. The next day, my parents called back. My dad swore he hadn't told anyone about the ladder. He hadn't loaned it out in months. Some idiot, he said. You did the right thing. I wanted to believe that. 3 nights later, my parents went out to dinner. I was alone again, but only for a couple hours. I wasn't relaxed, but I wasn't expecting anything either. I was in the living room when I heard it. Footsteps on gravel, walking up the driveway. I muted the TV immediately. The footsteps kept coming. Right before they reached the porch, I heard the sound of metal, like keys in someone's hand. I didn't wait this time. I called 911 before I even moved. Then I locked myself in the upstairs bathroom because it had a solid lock and a window facing the driveway. I stayed there with the phone in my hand, listening. By the time the deputies arrived again, the driveway was empty. No car, no person, just tire tracks from the patrol vehicle and the same woods surrounding us. After that, nothing else happened. No more knocks, no more footsteps. But what stuck with me wasn't the knock itself. It was how specific it was. He knew my dad's name. He knew we had a ladder in the garage. He knew when my parents weren't home. He didn't try to force anything. He tested. He watched. That's what I couldn't shake. Not just the idea of a break-in, but the idea that someone had studied our routines closely enough to sound believable through a closed door. My wife took our son to her sister's place on a Saturday night in February, one of those dead of winter weekends where nobody wants to be outside longer than necessary. I stayed home. I had a side job lined up for Sunday, brakes on a friend's truck, and I wanted a quiet night to lay my tools out. That's how I decompress. If everything's lined up and in order, my head is too. Our place in Peoria is normal. Chain link fences, detached garages, a couple big trees that look half dead most of the year. The back door opens into the kitchen. There's a porch light above it that throws a weak yellow triangle across the steps and patio. Because the door sweep is worn, a thin strip of light leaks in along the bottom. Keep that strip in mind. I heated up a frozen dinner, put a game show on low, and set my tools out on the dining table like I was about to operate on something. Ratchets in a row. Sockets sorted. Shop light charging. It felt like a calm night. House to myself. No background noise except what I chose. Around 9, I took the trash out. Cold enough that your breath shows. I looked down the alley, nothing but orange streetlight glow and long shadows. Came back in and locked the deadbolt. By 10:30, the house had settled into that late night quiet, dishwasher noise, furnace kicking on and off, and the TV low enough that I could still hear the rest of the house. I was looking up torque specs on my phone when I saw a shadow slide under the back door. It cut through that thin strip of porch light like something passed directly in front of it. My first thought wasn't person. It was dog, a neighbor's dog cutting through the yard, maybe a raccoon. I didn't jump up. I just watched the light line, waiting for the shadow to pass back the other way. It didn't pass back, and I told myself it was nothing. The brain fills in gaps when you're alone too long. Then the handle moved. I stood up fast enough that my chair scraped across the floor. I went to the counter and grabbed the first thing I saw, a kitchen knife, the one we use for vegetables. It felt stupid in my hand, but better than standing there empty. I didn't touch the blinds next to the door. Once you think someone's outside, opening the blinds feels like announcing exactly where you are. So I stepped back a few feet and stared at the bottom crack of light, Like, that was the only source of truth in the house. Nothing happened for maybe 10 seconds. Then the shadow came back. This time it didn't sweep past, it filled the strip, a solid block in the light. Like someone stepped right up to the threshold and stopped and stayed. Even animals shift their weight. This didn't. Whoever was there had planted themselves at my door. I didn't yell right away. I didn't want my voice giving anything away, position, fear, whatever. But the longer it stayed, the more the kitchen felt smaller. Finally, I said, "Wrong house." No response. "Get off my door." Still nothing. That's what unsettled me. If you knock by mistake and realize someone's home, you apologize. You back up. You leave. This person didn't. I pulled my phone out and called 911 without taking my eyes off that strip of light. "I think someone's at my back door," I said quietly. "They tried the handle. They're just standing there." The operator asked if I could see them. "Just their shadow under the door," I said, and it sounded ridiculous out loud. She told me to stay inside and keep the line open. So I stood there, knife in one hand, phone in the other, listening to her calm voice while that dark shape remained pressed against my threshold. A full minute is a long time when you're counting furnace clicks and your own breathing. At some point, I realized I couldn't hear anything outside. No footsteps, no movement, just that shadow. Then it moved. It stepped away, slow enough that the light returned in stages. The strip of yellow thinned back to normal. A few seconds later, I heard a crunch on the salted patio. Then, nothing. The operator asked if they'd left. "I think so," I said, but now I didn't know where they were. At least when they were at the door, I knew their location. Once they stepped away, the whole backyard became a question. Police showed up within minutes, red and blue lights flashing across the kitchen ceiling. They walked the yard with flashlights, checked the gate, the alley, asked if I had cameras. Front door, yes. Back door, no. They didn't find footprints, didn't find anyone hiding behind the shed. One of them pointed at the doormat and said it didn't look disturbed, like that meant anything. "Could have been someone cutting through," one officer said, "trying doors. They told me to call again if it happened. Consider more lighting, maybe cameras." Then they left. That's the part nobody talks about. The squad car drives away and you're still the one living there. My wife and son came home close to midnight. I tried to downplay it, but she read it on my face. I told her what happened after our son went upstairs. We both went to the back door together, checked the lock, checked the porch, stood there for a while, but nothing else happened that night. And nothing happened the next night, or the next. But I stopped leaving the TV loud enough to drown out outside noise. I added a motion light over the patio, and I leave the porch light on now. I hate that. I'm the guy who lectures about wasted electricity, but darkness doesn't feel neutral anymore. It feels like an invitation. The worst part is that someone stood there by the door, and they didn't rush. They didn't run when they realized someone was home. They stood at my back door like they were deciding something, and then they chose to leave. I used to think living on the ground floor was just a trade-off. It's easier with groceries, no stairs after a double shift, a little more noise because people cut through the courtyard, but you get used to it. My apartment in Lexington was in one of those complexes that looks nicer from the leasing office than it feels at 1:30 in the morning. My unit faced the back, grass, a sidewalk to the parking lot, and a couple decorative trees that didn't really block anything. From my bedroom window, you could see the glow of the streetlights and the outline of parked cars. I was 23, bartending, some college, but not finished. Night shifts meant good tips and wrecked sleep. I'd come home smelling like fryer oil and citrus, feet aching, brain buzzing from hours of small talk. That night in July, my roommate was out of town. I got home around 1. I showered fast to rinse off the night, put on an old t-shirt, and crawled into bed. I left the fan on low, turned to the wall just for background noise. Ground floor means you hear everything. Car doors, laughter, someone arguing by the dumpster. And that's why the tapping didn't register as danger at first. It was light. 3 quick taps on the glass around 1:30 a.m. I remember looking at the microwave clock before rolling over. Branches, I thought. Or a bug hitting the window. We had a tree near that side, and sometimes the wind would push twigs against the glass. Then 3 more taps. Same spot, same spacing. That's when I sat up. The curtain was one of those cheap blackout panels that never fully block light. The street lamp outside gave it a faint outline. I told myself it was nothing. Wind. A branch. A coincidence. Then I heard a whisper. Harper? My name. Low and close. Like someone speaking carefully so they wouldn't wake the whole building. Everything in me went quiet at once. My name shouldn't have been outside my bedroom window at 1:30 in the morning. My mailbox didn't list names, just unit numbers. I never posted my address online. I didn't even have a cute doormat with my name on it. And my bedroom window faced the back of the complex. You didn't pass it casually. You had to walk around. I kept my eyes on the curtain. I didn't move to pull it aside. I didn't want whoever was out there to see my face. The tapping came again. That's when my brain stopped trying to explain it. I reached for my phone. Dead. Of course. I slid out of bed slowly, careful of the one spot in the floor that creaked near my dresser. I went into the bathroom and shut the door behind me. I needed a second layer between me and that window. From inside the bathroom, I could still hear movement outside, grass shifting, maybe shoes. I texted my neighbor across the hall, Lauren. We weren't close, but she once asked me if I'd seen her cat, and that felt like enough of a connection. Are you awake? Someone's outside my window. They just said my name. She replied almost immediately. What? Call police. I'm coming out. Knowing she was up helped more than I expected. I stepped out of the bathroom and grabbed my keys from the bowl. The pepper spray attached to them, suddenly not just a suggestion from my dad. I called 911 from the living room, staying as far from the bedroom window as possible. There's someone outside my bedroom window, I said. They tapped on it and said my name. The dispatcher asked if I could see them. No, I said. I'm not going near the window. She told me to stay inside and wait for officers. Lauren knocked on my door a minute later. Hearing my name from someone safe almost made me cry. I cracked the chain, saw her face, and let her in. She stood next to me in the living room, phone in hand, eyes locked on the hallway that led to my room. The police arrived within 15 minutes. It felt longer because every car outside sounded like it might be the same person coming back. 2 officers walked around the building with flashlights. They checked the grass below my window, the sidewalk, the parking lot. One of them shined his light straight into my bedroom from outside. It made my room look like a display case. When they came back to my door, they asked the questions you expect. Did you recognize the voice? No. Any recent breakups? No. Anyone have a reason to know your name? I bartend, I said. People hear my name all night. They exchanged a look that was almost accusatory. Could be someone messing around, one said. College kids do dumb stuff. I didn't argue, but this didn't feel like someone messing around. It felt specific. Before they left, one of the officers pointed toward the ground under my window. See that? He said. Lauren and I followed his flashlight beam. In the dirt near the foundation, where grass gave way to a small bare patch, there were footprints. Not clear enough to cast in plaster, but visible, compressed spots in the soil facing my window. What made it worse was that the dirt looked packed down in more than one place. Not just one fresh mark, a flattened area like someone had stood there before. How long's that been like that? He asked. I don't know, I said, and I hated that answer. I wished I had something better. They told me there wasn't much they could do without a description. No forced entry, no broken glass, no video footage. After they left, Lauren and I stood in my bedroom with the lights on and the curtains still closed. That's creepy, she said. Yeah, it was. The next morning in daylight, everything looked normal. Kids riding bikes, someone walking a dog, sunlight on the grass, but the dirt patch under my window was still there, pressed down. That week, I changed everything. On nights my roommate was gone, I slept in the living room, away from every direct window to the outside, just walls and a front door with a deadbolt and chain. Lauren suggested maybe it was someone from the bar. That possibility made sense. I wore a name tag some nights. Regulars said my name out loud when they tipped. It wouldn't take much for someone to hear it once and remember it. If someone wanted my name, they didn't have to dig for it. They just had to listen. I wasn't some fearless man of the house when my parents left that night. I was 25, working warehouse shifts at Amazon in Albuquerque, and they trusted me with the dog and the house because I usually remembered to lock things. They were gone for just one night in August 2021. Quick trip out of town. My mom did her usual lap before leaving, checking stove knobs, tugging the front door, reminding me about the dog's meds like I was still a teenager. Keep the garage locked, she said, and don't open the door for anyone. The garage was our main entry. Groceries, tools, everything came through that interior door that led straight into the kitchen. It always felt secure because it was inside. That mattered more than I realized. I got home from my shift around 8:30 p.m., fed the dog, microwaved something, and put a game on. Normal night. The house felt bigger without my parents moving around, but not in a scary way. Just quiet. Around 11:40, the dog lifted his head from the couch. He didn't bark, but I muted the TV and listened. At first, nothing. Then I heard the garage door shifting. It wasn't the full lift, just that strained metal noise, like it moved a few inches and stopped. The kind of sound you recognize immediately because you've heard it your whole life. I stood in the kitchen and waited. It happened again. A short lift, then a stop. My first thought was malfunction. The opener had been acting weird a few months earlier, and I thought maybe the sensor was off. I walked to the interior garage door. It had a regular knob lock and a deadbolt. Both were still locked. I checked them twice anyway. On the other side of that door, the garage motor made a faint clicking sound, like it had just completed a cycle. I pulled out my phone and opened the garage app. My dad had installed a smart opener so he could check the door remotely. The app said, "Closed." I refreshed it. Still closed. Then I heard the door move again, like it had gone halfway up and settled. I went to the wall button in the laundry room but didn't press it. I just stared at it, trying to decide if I should open the interior door and check. I unlocked the deadbolt on the inside door, leaving the knob lock engaged. I told myself I just wanted to hear better, see if the motor was stuck. I leaned closer to the door, and from inside the garage, I heard a voice. "You home?" It was close enough to the interior door that I could hear it clearly through wood and drywall. It wasn't my dad. It wasn't any neighbor I recognized. It sounded like someone who expected an answer. The dog pressed against my leg and made a low sound I'd only heard when strangers came too close to the fence. I didn't respond. I didn't even swallow. A few seconds passed. "You home?" the voice repeated. I slid the deadbolt back into place as quietly as I could. It took 2 tries because my hands were slick. Then the garage door started closing. The rumble of it going down felt louder than the voice had. I backed away from the door and went to the kitchen window that faced the driveway. Our driveway was empty. From my angle, I could see the garage door was down. I opened the app again. It still showed closed. I checked the activity log. The last entry was from earlier that afternoon when my dad left. No record of it opening. No record of it closing. I called my dad. He didn't answer. He texted, "Everything okay?" I replied, "Garage door just moved. Heard someone in there." He called immediately. "Did you open it?" he asked. "No, it went up halfway. I heard a guy say, 'You home?'" There was a pause long enough that I knew he was picturing the layout of the house. "Call 911, he said. So I did. By the time officers arrived, I'd turned on every light in the house and clipped the dog's leash on like that made me more in control. They checked the garage first, walked the perimeter with flashlights, looked at the tracks, the opener, the side door to the yard. Everything looked exactly how it always did. One officer asked me to repeat the voice part. I did. "You sure it wasn't someone in the alley?" he asked. "It was inside the garage," I said, close to the interior door. He nodded but didn't look convinced. They couldn't find a way someone had gotten in. The side door was locked. The windows were intact. The garage door itself showed no signs of tampering. "Could be a glitch," one said. "These smart systems act up." Except glitches don't ask questions. They took my information, told me to call again if anything else happened, and left. That was the part that unsettled me most. There was nothing concrete to report. No theft, no damage, no evidence beyond my word and the dog's behavior. My parents came home the next morning. My dad changed the opener code, reset the system, and replaced the interior door lock. He treated it like a mechanical problem to solve, but nothing explained the voice. I replayed it in my head for weeks. It sounded like someone checking whether the house was occupied before deciding what to do next. The garage used to feel like part of the house. After that, it felt like a buffer zone, a place someone could stand without being fully inside and still be close enough to talk. Nothing was stolen. Nothing was broken. There was no dramatic ending. Just a voice in the dark, asking a question that didn't need an answer to be understood. If being home alone feels different now, that's the point. Go ahead, smash that like button, hit subscribe so you never miss the next nightmare, and tell me which story messed with you the most. And if you think things get better when you move into a brand new house, click now to watch 4 disturbing new home horror stories. Because sometimes the walls are new, but you're not the first one inside. Thanks for watching. Stay alert, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next nightmare.